Welcome to the Crawford Log House. It's called a log house rather than a cabin because there's wooden floors instead of dirt, a second floor that runs the full length of the house, and the logs. They've been squared up instead of left naturally round. This log house was built around 1860 in Big Lick Township near West Independence by Samuel Crawford Sr., the great-grandson of Colonel William Crawford, who was burned at the stake by Indians near Upper Sandusky in 1792. The house was passed down to Samuel Jr., who sold the log house to the Metzger family. It was moved to the Hancock Historical Museum's campus in 1975, and the restoration was dedicated in memory of R.L. Heminger. The outer wall logs of the house are original. The windows would likely have been covered with greased paper or animal hides, as glass was expensive. The floors, porch, door, and staircase are all replacements, as well as the chinking between the logs and the chimney. Early log structures were not clean or comfortable, with no good way to keep out bugs, vermin, or dirt, and smoke often would flood the room instead of going out the chimney. A log house was always hot in the summer and cold in the winter. Let's take a look at the specific artifacts in the log house. Above the door there's a rifle, and to the side of the door a powder horn. This Kentucky rifle is a muzzle-loading black powder rifle with percussion cap, made around 1850. The decorative wood stock is tiger maple. In the early days of firearms manufacturing, individual craftsmen made components one at a time: the flintlock, the barrel, and the wooden stock. At some point, guns were completely assembled at one place, thus the advertising slogan, "Lock, Stock, and Barrel." Under the shelf near the west wall, there's a cabbage cutter. A cabbage was cut in half and dragged across the blades to cut up the cabbage to make sauerkraut. On the floor below the cabbage cutter is a wooden butter churn. After cream was added to the churn, the tall stick part, called the dash, was moved up and down to agitate the cream. This was needed to be done at a consistent pace to create butter. It was a time-consuming but essential pioneer chore. Deep in the corner, there's what looks like a long board with holes in it at the bottom end. This is an apple butter stirrer or paddle. Apples were cooked in copper kettles over an open flame, and the paddle was used to continuously stir the butter. This prevented it from sticking to the bottom and burning. The long handle allowed the stirrer to stand far away from the heat, and the holes made the stirring more efficient. Next to the apple stirrer is a dough box. When households baked their own bread, dough was placed in a wooden box to allow it to rise. Then the bread was kneaded on the flat removable top. The dough box is from around 1850. The legs were probably added later, transforming the piece into an extra table for the kitchen. Next, you'll see a tin candle mold. A string was threaded into each tube, and the melted wax, or tallow, was poured into the mold to cool and harden. Candles were used sparingly, because everyone in the family knew how much time was needed to make more candles. Next to the candle molds, you'll see a coffee grinder. This is a box or lap coffee grinder. Box grinders had a place to put the coffee beans on top of a hardwood box. The crank would be turned to grind the beans into a drawer below. On the far side of the fireplace, you'll see a yoke with two buckets. This was used by a child to carry water from the well to the house for drinking, cooking, or washing. Over on the east side of the room, you'll find a wooden ironing board, irons, a wash tub, and a washboard. There is also a wooden carpet beater on the wall, a spinning wheel, and a yarn winder. One can only imagine how hard the pioneer women and children worked every day to provide for the needs of the family. Next, we'll head upstairs. Make sure to watch your head and your step. These stairs are not made for modern heights and foot sizes. To your right, at the top of the stairs, you'll see a rope bed. Underneath the mattress, there are ropes tied and woven for support, but they were not at all comfortable. On the top of the bed is a wooden rope wrench. This was used every night to tighten the ropes on the bed. If the ropes were not tightened, you could fall through the bed to the floor when you got into bed. This is the origin of the phrase, sleep tight. Also on top of the bed is a soapstone bed warmer, which was heated in the fire and pulled across the bed to warm it up. It could also be placed underneath the covers to warm the bed and removed when the family was ready to go to bed. The coverlet on top of the bed is typical of Hancock County in the 1860s. Many farmers have similar coverlets made with the year and the name of their family farm in the corner in a red, white, and blue design. Underneath the big bed, you'll see a small trundle bed. Trundle beds were stored under the tall bed and pulled out at night for the children to sleep on. Also under the bed was a chamber pot. This was your bathroom in evenings when you didn't want to walk out to the outhouse in the middle of the night. It was the job of the youngest child to take the chamber pot outside to empty it each morning. In the far part of the room, there's a large loom that was used mostly for making rag rugs. The cloth was woven between the strings and pushed tightly together until the weaving was long enough to make a rug for the house. Next to the rug loom is a large walking spinning wheel, also called a grate wheel, one of the earlier types of spinning wheels. This wheel is used for the long draw spinning technique. The fiber is held in the left hand and the wheel slowly turned with the right. The grate wheel is usually used to spin short staple fibers like cotton and wool. This concludes the Log House audio tour. You are welcome to also visit our other museum buildings, including the Agricultural Barn Exhibit, the Energy and Transportation Building, and the DeWald Funk House. Thank you for visiting the Hancock Historical Museum.